Yo, 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 welcome to Mad House Pro. I'm in the building. If you don't like it, you could get out because it's my building. Yo, it's raining outside today, right? Kind of sleepy. That weather does something to me. But yeah, today, y'all, I'm gonna just do something different. Let me get these speakers and monitors in correct. Mm. So you guys can hear me. Um, so what I got up is Sonovox, right? Sonovox had this other VST that dealt with sound. Sounds like that, right? Now, I don't know how to play. Oh, excuse me, y'all. That weather. I don't know how to play by reading. I could read just a very little. I mean, I was telling y'all this the other day, but I was sitting here and I was playing around with keys, and it sounded good, right? The thing is, I was like, I don't record nothing. How do it sound to other people? And with it being strings, right, them keys was off. But anyway, so just fooling around. Sometimes you sit here and you can make something. I was using pretty much three fingers, in and out, or left and right. Uh, and that's it, right? But sometimes I sit and I play a long thing. Some things I've learned about music, and I learned this in the computer production class at Prairie State back in Chicago Heights, Illinois. And I learned everything are loops meaning over and over. And when you listen to music, you break it down and you begin to listen and you hear patterns or loops and you'll hear them over and over. And that's how things begin to make sense. So it's like if you were to create, uh, you begin to make a sequence. And that's it's interesting because as long as it sound good and you keep it over and over, then you randomize it, it'll sound a little bit better. But it's nothing more than patterns. And in my quest to learning to read music and more, you're gonna learn forever. You know what I'm saying? I'm nowhere near on the level of some of the top people. And you run into people who know how to play by sheet music, some who play by ear. And the joy of it is it sounds good. And that's the end result. How good does it sound? It sounds good. And for me, like I'm a programmer, and I'm still learning stuff. So it's like I figure the more time you put in, the better you get with anything. Like basketball, I'm an avid basketball player. Shoot, shoot, shoot. The more you shoot, the better you get. The more accurate you become because you honing your craft. So just like with anything, singers, when they first start out singing, some of them don't sound good and some do. But the more you sing, the better you are. What they say, practice make perfect. That's a statement. But the more you do it, the better you become. So like music production, the more you do it, the better you become. When you get tired of doing the same stuff over and over at your level, and you're ready to advance, you're gonna advance to something different. You know what I'm saying? Something better. You're gonna open your mind up and learn your ability. Like, what can I do to enhance my ability? You could read. That's the first thing. You read up on it to get some understanding of it. Uh, Learn it. Learn new things. There's a little bit above your level or even below. You can learn some of the smallest things that make a huge difference, and then apply them. You got to apply everything you learn. So it's like it's just life. music is life. You got to look at that stuff. I'm inspired by other people that I listen to and watch. YouTube, I be on there, y'all. Seriously, man, y'all just don't understand. YouTube, it opens up a lot of doors for you get that you can network through YouTube if you create your own channel like me. Network with other people, man. There's a lot of stuff out there. Uh, Legendary Traxter from Chicago, one of my top producers that I like to check up on from time to time. Good guy. The history of Traxter goes back to when I was a kid. I mean, we stayed in the same neighborhood. Him and my uncles and aunties and brothers, they all went to the same school. It was the Paul Revere or Sababa Row. Him and my cousin, it's just a small world. So when things get going and it comes full circle, his son and my cousin, they used to come over to the house to record. It's just like, wow, I have to break the history down to them at once upon a time. Like, your dad went to school with my brothers, auntie, and uncle, and it's just a small world, So you see that stuff and the connections. My cousin, them, Paul, uh, uh, the Pauls, I call them the Pauls, but they're part of the Banks. Good people. Jermaine, Sel, Kiana, the twins, all them guys, they were connected, you know what I'm saying? But them just my people. So this is nothing more than me just talking about music and the connections that we have. Life, seriously, life. People don't understand. We grew up in the church. It was a church household. Drums. I thought I was a percussionist. We would beat on canisters, plastic canisters with the coat hanger sticks that were like about the size of a drumstick. What's bigger than that? But that's what we use, And Paul's mixing the tapes. We would hit stuff on the radio. I try to mix it that way. The karaoke, my mom could sing, and she had one of them tape decks where you plug the mic in and record straight to that. I call it the very first karaoke. And speaking of karaoke, my sister did a lot of stuff as a kid. Like, I'd say she's about 7 or 8, maybe a little bit older. And she used to do some stuff. But music, it's in a lot of us. A lot of people don't realize that, from the beatboxing and just in the lunchroom, playing on the tables with pencils. I never took band. Like, some people took band. Like my dad, I think he played a trombone or something. I think Tyrone, my brother, did, but he did the concert choir as well. I think him and Vincent, or Tyrone, I know for sure. But all of them, they could sing. Jennifer, Timmy, me, I was just the one who couldn't sing or didn't want to sing. I went more towards rap around what, 8th grade. I heard it during the time as kids. We had to sneak and listen to it because parents didn't really allow it. Being that we were in the church. But as I got older, the freedom kicked in and I started listening to everything. And then the Chicago underground music scene was big for me. 9:50 a.m. That was the radio station. I got grounded when I was in 8th grade. I never forget, because we just moved from Chicago to Country Club Hills, right? And I had to listen to like the radio because I couldn't go outside. I wanted to go play basketball, but it's like, you grounded, your grades ain't right. 9:50 a.m. and I think MJG, 8 Ball of MJG was out then. And I was just listening to that, like, man, what is this? New radio station. And the birth for me, I was like all into rap then. But even then, before then, you had the LL Cool J's, Curtis Blow, all them guys. I got bits and pieces when I was in Chicago, because when we come to school, they had the jukebox, big box on the side of the shoulder, whatnot. They would carry that in, and you get your fixes along the school or just out in the playing in the streets. Then we played outside. Somebody would have it on in the car, so that music was like, man, this is some good music. You know what I'm saying? LL Cool J and Kool Moe Dee, they had their rap battle, so we was listening to that stuff. And Run DMC, of course, my Adidas, all that stuff, man. It was like growing up in the 80s. It was a great time. The music for us, it started everything. So being that Chicago to me was a top city, especially back then you had New York, LA, and then to me it was like Chicago. So it's like this is where I'm from, this is where I'm born, and where's the music scene for Chicago? Because when you see people travel back then, you see the skyscrapers, then you watching other cats over in New York just getting on. You like, dang, they got them offices down there. So as a kid, you be looking like, so when we gonna get somebody from Chicago to represent? And just looking around, you have the NWA, man. I mean, Wu Tang. You had the Grave Diggers, but the Ghetto Boys. That's kind of when it started hitting close to home. Ghetto Boys, and it's cassette tapes, and I was like, the Ghetto Boys, right? So I was tweaking, right? I'm like, the Ghetto Boys, and we heard that stuff, and it was like Tribe Called Quest. My brother Jason, he used to listen to a lot of that stuff. So Jason was the one who kind of brought us to, able to sneak and listen to rap or whatnot. We had We All in the Same Gang. That was all the rappers, Rob Bass and them. The other rappers that was around the scene then that was influencing us. And it was dope. We All in the Same Game and Self Destruction. So uh, those two tracks was like, man, this is everybody or just about who's everybody in the rap game. Some of the names, Busta Rhymes was out there, Leaders of the New School. You had all them guys. It was just like music was so abundant back then. Salt and Pepper, JJ Fad, the female crew, MC Light, Queen Latifah. And the history of music and rap is just like huge, man. So all that stuff had a big influence on me coming up from the 80s to the 90s, all the way up to now. And I look at it when Ghetto Boys came to Chicago, they used to make that constant trips. And slowly, Ice Cube, of course, Ice T, man, I could go over the list on and on. But for me, when it hit Twister, so Twister came out, he was tongue twister at first when we first heard about him. And he was real fast, the Guinness Book of World Records. So we like, man, we got somebody from Chicago about to put us on. But right behind him at that time, you still had Common Sense stepping on the scene. Common was like, wow, sold about a pound. So I was like, oh, okay, he from Chicago. He had a New York flavor. So to me, he was more hip hop, enriched and were like them guys from New York. So it was like his flavor was dope, real smooth. And then you had Twister. So Twister came on the scene, and Naughty by Nature. So they had a little beef, which kind of shocked me. At then, we was still kind of young. We was like, what, maybe eighth grade. And we started listening to the beef and what was going on then. And Naughty by Nature was one of the cream of the crops back then. You know what I'm saying? So Twister put out a song called Suicide. And back then we didn't the box a little bit older back then, but it was some channel in Chicago that it was like 66, 62 before it was like the Espanol channel. And it was like a late night. And I seen the video, right? And I was like, yo, like he had this guy looking like Tretch and he went in on him. And I'm like, dang, so what was that all about? So anyway, that was just a little beef of history. But with Twista, that was when he first came out. So it was around 91, 92, him and Common. Uh, then, he hit a little gap. Well, you had the Brat come out then. She came out, she was doing her stuff. And that was like one of the biggest acts. But slowly behind that one, quickly, Do or Die emerged. So this is like 95. Do or Die, Crucial Conflicts, Psychodrama. So them was like the monsters of the midway right there. So you had like, man, Common Sense. Common was big still. Still is to this day, and that was the architect or the pillars of Chicago before I found out about No ID, Legendary Trackster, D to the S, EC Ella, man, D Villa, Ainge 13, Lupe Fiasco. So all them guys, they started coming along, and I was like, yo, so we're about to be on, right? So I'm just monitoring and watching this stuff like in amazement and seeing this stuff. So '96, I leave and I go overseas. I join the army, so I have to bounce out. Like, man, and the Source magazine still was hot, and you just start hearing music evolve. And the Chicago bounce we had, that we was like, yeah, we own. Twister representing, Crucial Conflict, Do or Die, Psychodrama. Psychodrama was like, we were waiting for them to be on the main stage, and they did with Master P and them with the Suave House and No Limit Soldier collab. So we was like, yeah, finally they're about to see what we've been hearing all this time, and it's about to go big. And something didn't fall through with Suave House. I think I don't know the history on that one all the way through, but it was pretty dope, to see them at least get a taste of it. And we was waiting on them to emerge like the world to hear the rest of the Chicago flavor, because Psychodrama had a different vibe, very different, but it was so dope. It was kind of dark, but it was dope. And then like following them guys, back then we had cassette tape, mixtapes, and mix CDs. That was coming on the scene, and I got made it back from Germany, and I think I went to Fort Riley, Kansas, and I was trying to get like music from Chicago, because I would tell people like, man, no, Chicago we got a mob back there, Drum Award with Triple Dawkins in them and Psychodrama. So they had a camp, and people was like, "What you talking about?" So I had the mixtapes and CDs, and I used to put them on. The Mercenaries, they all these other groups started coming out, and people was like, "Yo, Troy, hey, I had cats from Baltimore, New York, Texas, So in the military, we are for sure melting pot. So we used to listen to each other music. Well, like I was driving, so I had a mix CD. Music Match was out then, so I used to make my mix CDs or whatnot, and I used to order from EC Illa up north. He had the tips, which is the tips, CDs, and tapes. So this is like 2000, 2001. So I was just making mixes, and people like, yo, who is that? These guys funny, but they got some dope music. Meaning, the skits that they'll play, drama war, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So it was the skits, and I used to start buying CDs. They were like $20 a CD back then. I was pretty what I had to pay to get them, shipped to Kansas. Crucial Conflict was doing On and Poppin', Do or Die, Snipers. Can't forget about them guys, because they was with Rap a lot. So my mixture of music was bringing like awareness of what was in Chicago. Then the legendary tracks that he had this work during the drought. I think was volume one, and he had Do It Down there, a remix with Legit Ballers with Twister, because Twister then he went to Legit Ballers and did his thing over there, and the music was just like a variety. You know what I'm saying? Ball with Us with JP with the Legit Ballers. It was dope, man. So it was like the vibe, and I would take these CDs to the with me to the clubs or whatnot, and let the guys hear. They was like, man, ask them to put it on. They really didn't put it on, but they would hear it and be like, there's something different. And it's dope. So that Chicago music culture for me was like banging. And then I started listening to Lupe. So Lupe at the time was putting the first and 15 stickers all downtown Chicago. So like when I go home, I would go to Tower Records to get some CDs. I used to flip through the CDs and see who was representing Chicago, what new artist was out, and I would grab that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And I listened to it, be like, man, and I wanted to share my music. Napster, Napster came out, right, and I came back for a little bit, and I was working at this consulting firm. I had a break in service, and Napster was just out, and the company was a consulting firm, A.T. Kearney, and I used to download files like about a gigabytes back then. In what 2000, it was like what. I was sharing it with the guys. We worked in the mailroom, so it was like, and I would download all this music. And the Night We Ride was a track by E.C. Illa and Traxter, right? Now this is before it even made, I think, work during the drought. So this is a little bit before that. I don't know how I got that track, but I downloaded and I had it for a long time before it actually hit that CD. And I was like, man, I had that for some years. Kanye West then popped on the scene, because I had, I think Through the Wire was about 2003, 03 or somewhere down that frame. So Kanye stepped on the scene, right? So this was like, man, this was huge. So it was like having Napster and able to share my files with people and vice versa, man. You would find some gems on there, and then they shut it down. But um, Chicago music is deep, man. But that's how I became involved with all this stuff. So then, 2003 or four, Black Planet was out, right? So I was on there just surfing, linking up with people. Cap One, I never forget. I had a Cap One track. Can't forget about Cap Uno. Cap One was out, and he was hitting hard because he kind of had like he was a mixture between Jay Z to some people with the way he delivered his flow because he kind of fast but smooth with it. And I put that on my Black Planet page. So it was like, I forgot the name of the song. It probably was called Sex or something. But I put it on there. I was learning coding with my music. So now her name is Kate Brown. That's her name on the stage. So I ain't gonna give her a real name, but we linked up on there, and she was doing podcasting back then. So this 2003, 2004, and I was like, yo, um, went over, we linked up. I think we went to IHOP. We was just chopping it up, talking music and stuff. And I was like, what are you using to do your stuff? And she showed me. It was a little smooth little setup. It was with Magix, right? Magix, and it was like they first like Deluxe 10. So they had some other versions before that. So it was a nice setup. She had a little mic. I'm like, dang, and she would just hit the record button. It seemed so simple. I'm like, with the computer, and I was a computer head, so I'm like, okay, I did that. So I went and bought Magix, and to this day I still got that CD, right? So from 2003. But that was my first start into the music of creating, and the sounds that you learn and you hear about. Sometimes you want to implement that stuff. So it was like tracks that used to have this height, this kick, and I used to be like, that was dope. From Adrenaline Rush, when he did that, I was like, yo, that's hard. You know what I'm saying? So I was learning how to use Magix. And there was this other program called Storm. So they had loop samples and stuff. And I didn't have no musical background on that level to use all this music. So I was like, man, this interesting, and that was the birth, 2003, 2004, meeting up with Kate Brown, just showing me her software, and that put me on. Taisha, thank you. She got me started on that. Kate Brown, aka Taisha, and we became friends. So she used to do her stuff, and we started going to music stores, and we would buy software, hardware. I started buying mics and things like that. So then, being home for a little bit, I ran off of my what we call terminal leave with the military, and I was like, okay, what's out here? Time to get back to work. I got to get some stuff. I'm back home in Chicago. What am I gonna do? So I joined the Air National Guard, and I did. I went down there, which was in Peoria, Illinois. So I came from Chicago to Peoria, and around that time, I was just starting with the post office, right? So I was just linking up with the post office, and I remember coming back from Kansas to take the test. I took the test 3 times so that I could, land me a job once I got out the military, right? So I wound up landing a job with the post office out in Bourbonnais. So I was a carrier. It's a little bit of history of me. And I was out there for like maybe 2 to 3 months it was 3 months because I just passed my August, September, October, November. So it was just 3 months. I passed my probationary period, right? And then it was like, I ran into this guy, Sergeant. I cannot call his name, but he remembered me from a deployment I did in Macedonia when we was overseas. Sergeant Price, and he was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And he's like, "Hey, we replaced you guys." And that was back in '97 when y'all was in Macedonia. I'm like, "For real?" It's like, yeah. So he was down there, so it's connection, the army connection. So he was like, he was security forces or whatnot, and he was like, hey. Long story short, I wound up doing 2 years down there with them guys, right? So I met my homeboy Marlon Burton, big ups. We are close like brothers. So I'm back there. I'm doing that time, and I still was like Guitar Center, right? Guitar Center. What's there? So loop files, right? And a keyboard. So my cousin Brandon B Madden, he was like, man, when you making music, if you get a Phantom rolling, that's the joint. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can make dope beats and stuff, right? So I went and found one at Guitar Center at the time. It was like 1700 or something. So this was back then. I bought it, not knowing how to play, and I just used to punch the keys on it. It had pads on it. I still got it to this day. I'm looking at it, right? So I was using that, but it was loop files from Big Fish or somebody. So this 2004 or Pro Sessions. That's what it was, Pro Sessions. So I started buying all this stuff, right? Like boom, 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 Pro Sessions. And Studio One was out. That was the upgrade at the time. So I just downloaded FL Studio to demo, and I had PreSonus, and I was like, let me learn it. Didn't really know FL Studio or Fruity Loops at the time. Was like, whatever, man. It's like I get back to it later. So Studio One, PreSonus, right, and Pro Sessions. So I was taking these loops and I was putting them together, mixing them up, thinking I'm producing, right? Like boom, boom, yeah, man, that's me. And they was like, it's dope. And then I ran into my guy Bruce. Bruce was in the Air National Guard with me. So Bruce was like, "Yo, that ain't producing." He said, "You doing nothing more than mix." And then I think DJ Clue said, "DJ Clue does that. That ain't producing." So I was like, "Oh, okay." And he reintroduced me to FL Studio. So I was like, "FL Studio, right?" I'm like, "Bet FL Studio." So he showed me how it works. So now it's like I got a better understanding. I wasn't using YouTube wasn't big back then. Facebook was just starting. I created an account with them. Facebook, I should have bought stock. I did not even know. I wasn't, social media wasn't big then. So what else he put me up on? Anyway, so FL Studio and MySpace. That's what it was. MySpace was out. So we would post beats on there and whatnot, and we was trying to work. So he showed me how to use FL Studio, and he was working with this guy that he was working with. Anyway, so uh, Studio One, I'd be back in my hotel room then, and I was learning it because that's where they had us stand before Marlon went and hooked us up, and we all went in on a house or something. And so pre-Sono Studio One, mixing with Pro Sessions. Bruce told me, that ain't tracks, whatever. Then I started learning how to produce, a little bit, how to create my own melodies, this and that with the piano roll, which to this day, FL Studio to me still has the dopest piano roll, even though I use other ones now. But that was what was hot. Most people could relate to that. So so at this time, this is 2004. So I did 2 years down there, 2005, 2006. And at this time, I was like, okay, I got to get ready to go back to Chicago. I'm going to move, right? So I wound up moving to Park Forest. So when I make it out to Park Forest, so now it's 2006, still working back at the post office. I transferred from Bourbonnais to the Boat Mail Center up in Chicago. So I go up there, right? Now I got tons of mixes because that's all I was doing for like 2 years straight, just making mixes and this and that, learning how to produce and reverb and all this stuff. So for a 2 year period, but during that, once I got back, 2006, me and my cousin Snoop, aka Genius Picasso, we hooked up. My dad and them was in the Heights, and we went over there, right? My parents, and we had a dinner or something, and he poured out some stuff from like FL Studio Kill Bill sample he did, and a ton of stuff, right? I'm like, yo. And I'm using FL Studio, but I'm still trying to perfect Magics at the time. And so I'm like, dang, cuz you raw. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, man. I couldn't touch him. We had a little beat battle. I'm not ashamed to say I lost. I lost that one because all I was doing was mixing slash half producing. So he was raw with it. So I'm like, bet. So he started coming over. I think he was going to I forgot which school he was going. He was still in high school. So I'm like, man, just come on over or whatnot, right? So I was single as heck. So I used to come grab Cuzzo, and that's where him and Quavo or Traxxas son, not Quavo, Traxxas son, and they used to hang out, and I was working a night shift, so I had an E machine computer with topped out RAM and all this other stuff, right? FL Studio, and I'm like, I had a closet, of course, microphones, and they would come over there. They'd bring their laptops and stuff, and man, you talking about I go to work at 11 o'clock. I got to be working 11 o'clock. I'll leave them at the crib, like man, free reign. Y'all can chill at the crib. And I was in a townhouse, so they'll come over there, do what they do. Man, like when I get back, like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking like I know I left them here. One in the closet, balled up, sleep. I'm like, dang. The other one just on the couch. I'm like, these guys work from sun up to sundown. So I would get on the computer, and in FL Studio, you could see the timestamp. And I'm like, man. So they went hard from like 9 p.m. to like 6, 7 in the morning. I'm like, just as I was getting off of work, they were still working. So I seen a work ethic like, man. So that bond right there with me and Snoop and whatnot, man, them guys was doing it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, bet. So we'll fast forward. So that was from like 2000, and I got back 2006, 2009. I got married. So everything, the dynamics changed. I got to raise a family. Had my daughter. So everything changed. So it's like family first, music later, and then you just living life. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, all right, I'm out here in the real world now. It is what it is. Do what we got to do, right? So got married, moved back to Chicago. So I sold that little spot out in Park Forest, and I was in Chicago. That was it. So I moved over back to the hundreds, stayed over there from like went through a divorce. Later on, like 2 to 3 years later, went through that divorce, and then Air Force. Went back down to Mississippi to do some training. Took my whole setup, my keyboard, my computer, everything. Drove down there, and this is the time now was 2012. So I'm down there for like 6 months, getting all my training through the military, doing what I got to do, and then from there, like I started my business, T Mac Music LLC. It was like had time reading to understand how to start a company. Started the company, everything back in Chicago, right? So I come back, waiting for my moved into another townhouse, back to the hundreds, waiting on everything to get ready, right? So I come back, boom, move back over in the neighborhood, and it's like, all right, I'm here. I'm not moving no more. Price is good. Still at the PO, and make music. So I just started making music. Boom, boom, just pushing music. But y'all gotta realize, even though I'm making all this music, I haven't released nothing. Nothing. I mean, just tracks. Even to this day, I still got like tracks sitting there from 2003, 2004. So 20 years old. And they just sitting there. I didn't transfer so many hard drives to different computers and just trying to keep everything in order. So some of the VSTs started becoming outdated. Uh, some of the dopest ones were Sonovox. You know what I'm saying? It was Hip Hop Sampler or something. That's what it was. And I bought that from Guitar Center, from buying a keyboard and all the files, and I transferred all those files over to the computers. I still got them like behind me. I got tough boxes of CDs that I done bought, all that stuff. So it's like I was keeping track with that and just trying to hone my skills, right? So I ran into a couple of people at the post office, Miss Ross, right? So she was there. She was just coming in, and she was like, yo, I rap this and that. And I started listening to it like, yo, shorty dope. Listen to the lyrics. Oh, your girl got skills. And there was another guy, and I could see his face, can't call his name. So I was like, they was around my cousin age, Snoop, or Genius for y'all. And I was like, he had another group called 9 to 5 Music, y'all. The dopest raw stuff I ever heard from a group. And they ain't put the music out. Or they did, but you can't get it. But anyway, so I was playing matchmaker, right? So I grabbed Snoop or Genius for you guys, and I tried to hook him up with Miss Ross, but we just couldn't get the timeline right because his production was more like their speed. And then I brought one guy when they kind of met, and then it was a small world. Oh, I know you from so and so, so and so. So they kind of linked up, but nothing materialized, and I never did get Miss Ross to link up with Genius so they could finish some stuff. So at this time, I'm trying to still got my music company, and I'm looking like I want to try to make a project. So I started linking up with other people. My guy Clifton JoJo from Hillcrest. We started linking up, and I was letting him hear tracks, and he was like, "Hey, I got an artist who could use some of these tracks." So we started collabing, giving money. Well, I was giving tracks and things like that, so they could work on some stuff. Just basic. We hooked up with my cousin Brandon and Quan. So Brandon was putting out tracks because he was opening up for people like Ludacris and stuff. So he was doing it. I'm like, bet, let's link up. Something happened, it happens. If it don't, it don't. And I wasn't tripping on it. So me and Quan was just reconnecting. And Kusain, for those who know him by that name, and he was making beats, and I sent the track down there to for Brandon. So Quan was like, "Yo, cuz, hey, the name of the track is called "The Bounce Is Back," and I still have it. So one day I'm gonna start playing this stuff. And he was like, "No, he wanted the stems." And at the time, I didn't know what stems were. I just knew how to create an MP3 or a WAV file and send it because he wanted to edit it. So he did what he did with it. It came out dope, and we just started collabing and working on that stuff. So at this time, I got this company. I'm like, man, T Mac Music production or whatnot. It didn't go nowhere. So you know what I'm saying. So it's like I'm back home, Chicago, single, and every once in a while I go get my daughter. So it's like, okay, I got my daughter, right? So I got this production stuff. I grabbed my daughter, made some tracks with her. At the time, she was like 5 and 6, 7 around that time. So she growing up over the time, and with me making music and beats, she would come over. I'm like, sing a song, and she'd rap or something. It's funny. I got them still to this day. You know what I'm saying? Piece of history. And you take that stuff, right? So it's like all the way up to now. So 2000, I was in that house for a minute, and the Chicago scene was just like it evolved drastically. Kanye been out for a while now. Chief Keef and all these other guys was coming out, so it was like the music industry still thriving. Jay Z didn't. I think he didn't retire by then and came back, and they was just doing stuff. You know what I'm saying? So the music industry was there. You know what I'm saying? Solid. And I was like, that's what's up. But it was like for me, I've been came and went to Chicago a couple times, military. I retired by then, so it was like 2012. So I was like retired from the service, and I was just looking at my life like it's time to go. Like I know Chicago, been here for the majority of my life. It's time to relocate. So I was like, all right, where am I gonna go? So I was talking to my god brother, Dan the man, D Hunt, and it was like it's time for me to go. So he was in Dallas, Texas. And so I'm like, all right, Dallas, Texas. I think I'm about to go ahead and head to Texas. So I was working on my credit, making sure everything was good. Talked to my old man. He was alive then. He was battling cancer. And I'm like, yo, Dad, I'm about to leave Chicago. He's like, what? You gonna leave Chicago, son? What about your daughter, this and that? And I was like, Dad, I've been here for a while. Time to step out on faith, see what God got for me. So it's time for me to spread my wings and see what the world really has to offer. Not no music in mind. I got with the post office, still there, and I was looking like, where can I go? The post office everywhere. I did some union work because I was a union steward at the job, and my guy said hit me up. He a DJ. DJ said hit me up like, man, yo, hey, come help us with Line H. For all the postal people, they know what that is. And I was like, bet. So he was in ATL. He was in Atlanta. So he was down in Georgia. So I was like, all right, I'll bounce out. What y'all need? I was over my maintenance department with the union. So he was like, man, we just need some help. So it's this cat named Mr. Mike Nodine. I talked to him. So I flew in there and I was like, bet, I'm here. Got a little hotel room. I meet y'all over at whatever facility, show y'all how this stuff work. We'll get it cracking. This. So I get down there, boom, boom, give them the training. So by this time, this was 2016, 17, somewhere around that time. And I'm helping them with their stuff, like boom. And I'm looking at, I'm in Atlanta, so Atlanta was like just like Chicago to me. I'm like, okay, no big difference. It is what it is. Uh, Wind up leaving, come back home, come back out there again. I think to help them finish. And this time I was like, I'm gonna go check around Georgia. So by this time I didn't re-linked up with my current wife, and she's like, I'm in Georgia. I'm like, for real, blah blah blah. Love story in the making. Uh, and I decided like, bet. Okay, I was supposed to go to Dallas, Texas. Georgia looks nice, good place to raise a family. I'm thinking daughter in mind at this time, so bet. So I don't move to Atlanta. I just moved to Georgia. In the suburbs, the skirts of Atlanta. And I was like, man, it's nice out here, peace and quiet, good good cost of living. I still got the post office. So I started doing my paperwork. I'm like, all right, so I'm not gonna make it to Dallas, Texas, but I will make it to Georgia. So put everything in, paperwork fell through, transfer, boom, landed in Georgia, right? Come down to Georgia about 2018 at the end. It was the end of 2018. So I get down here, and I'm like, then just dating on and off with my current wife, working that stuff out. God blessings came down. We got married. Now I got one, two, three, four other boys to look after. So I'm the role model. Well, their dad is in their life, so it's like they got to get adjusted to me through the time. So we get married. Everybody come down. Parents surprised me. Come down. Have a nice little wedding. A good ceremony, and then it's like, let's go get another house. Let's go get a new house. Get a new house. Travel to Vegas, and then it's like, boom. Now that I got this house, this is my first big major purchase of a home, and I'm in Georgia. I'm like, this is it. 30 years tied to this mortgage unless I want to do something different. But came down, and I had this basement, right? Wide old basement, unfinished, nothing. And I was like, this is dope. The first thing I had in my mind was like, make a studio. Make a studio. So what I did, man, y'all, I humped for like, it took me about a good year to finish the basement, maybe a little bit longer. But let the house settle, and then I just, me by myself, y'all, drywall, uh, studio equipment. I started buying monitors, TV screen monitors, and speakers, and audio interfaces, rack mounts. So over time I got all that stuff, and I finished the basement. Started the business over with a different name, Madhouse Productions LLC. Built a booth in the basement, put a bathroom down here, and that's all it was. It was pretty much just a booth, and then I made a ping pong table room next door, like a little game room. And then just recently, what was about earlier this year, the wife got on me, had to finish the rest of the basement. So it was like, move my oldest son down here. He's in the his little suite, as I call it, in the basement. So I made him a bedroom and closed everything off. So I finished the basement, but in this basement also is my studio. So uh, over the years, I bought tons of software and programs and um, things to help me produce digitally, right? Even though I got mics, I don't have a guitar, no drums. I do have this keyboard, but everything pretty much is digital. And that's the journey of Troy Madden. So when people want to know, like, I didn't know I was going to be sitting down here today talking to y'all about this. I thought I was going to be doing music and some type of tutorial or something, and it just spilled off into this. So it gives you a deeper background for those who are interested on who is Troy Madden. I didn't give y'all the spill of I grew up in a household of 6 children and my parents. I did tell you about the church, and it's a lot of us. Older brother deceased, father deceased now. So grandfather deceased. I didn't get into all that story. Who all I came from. But it's more to that story at another time. But from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised. I think I was born on 71st and University to be exact. 1970 something for you guys. I don't need to get y'all all my stuff. I get y'all 78. I was born in 78. Uh, to my moms and my father, Roy Lee Madden, rest in peace, and my mom, Shirley Madden. Those are my parents. To my siblings, Jason Fowler, rest in peace. Then down to Vincent, Tyrone, me, Timmy, and Jen. That's my clan. That's my branch. Uh, the majority of the years that we lived was off 114th and Calumet, Roseland, or Wild Hundreds for those that know that nickname, Dark Side, all that other stuff. Um, that's what we did the majority of growing up. Palmer Park, the Williams, the Perrys, the Browns. Man, I could go over a list of people that we are connected to, that we're linked, that we grew up in the same era and we survived the streets of Chicago. We may lost one or two here. Can't forget about the Washingtons across the street, Red and them. Man, Shannon Brown. Man, I could go through a list of people, but these are the people we grew up with, and that's my I say my culture. Where the kids jump rope, hide and go seek, all type of stuff, slingshots, go karts. So that was part of my upbringing. From there was the majority of my life to Hillcrest for my 4 years. G. Ball Simmons from the Hundreds, linked up with him in high school. There's a lot of people, man. I could go over a lot. The triplets, man, Ron and Rodney, uh, Walkers, man. But anyway, them are the people who we are attached to and a part of my life. So from there to the military, I'd be for days, y'all. But hey, this is Troy Madden from Madhouse Pro. Thanks for watching. I don't know how I got here, but this is my story in my life and the people who had influences on it. But hey, peace, be safe, be blessed. I'm out.